cold California night, two teenagers parked beside a lonely road, never realizing death was already watching them from the darkness. Minutes later, gunshots shattered the silence near Vallejo, leaving one victim dying beside a car soaked beneath flickering headlights. Police believed the attack was another tragic murder, but nobody understood a far more terrifying nightmare had already begun across Northern California. Less than 1 year later, another young couple disappeared into darkness, where a masked figure emerged carrying a knife and gun. Witnesses later described a black executioner hood marked with a strange symbol, a symbol that would soon terrify the entire United States forever. Before investigators connected the murders, newspapers across California received chilling handwritten letters from someone calling himself the Zodiac. Inside those envelopes were coded messages, disturbing threats, and terrifying details only the real killer could possibly know about the crimes. One letter demanded newspapers publish his cipher publicly, warning that innocent people would die if authorities refused his horrifying instructions. Panic exploded across California as families locked doors early and police departments struggled against a killer who seemed completely invisible to investigators. Then came the most disturbing revelation of all. The Zodiac Killer was not hiding quietly. He was openly mocking law enforcement publicly. Reporters gathered inside crowded newsrooms while detectives desperately analyzed symbols, hoping hidden messages could reveal the identity behind the terrifying murders. But the cipher only deepened the mystery, containing bizarre phrases about killing people and collecting victims for the afterlife after death. Across San Francisco, fear spread rapidly because nobody understood where the Zodiac Killer would strike next or who might become his next victim. Schools changed routines, parents feared, isolated roads, and entire communities began living beneath the shadow of an unseen predator hunting randomly. Then another letter arrived containing a shocking confession. The killer claimed responsibility for a recent San Francisco taxi driver murder downtown. Detectives rushed toward the bloody crime scene where cab driver Paul Stein lay motionless inside his taxi beneath glowing city streetlights. Witnesses described seeing a heavy-set white man calmly walking away from the murder scene while police unknowingly searched for a black suspect. That mistake became one of the most infamous failures in American criminal investigation history, allowing the Zodiac Killer to disappear into darkness again. Even worse, days later the killer mailed another letter containing pieces of Paul Stein's bloody shirt as proof he escaped successfully. By the end of 1969, the Zodiac Killer had transformed from local murderer into a nationwide symbol of fear, confusion, and obsession. Investigators from multiple counties gathered evidence together, but jurisdiction conflicts and missing coordination slowly crippled the expanding Zodiac investigation from the beginning. Every detective believed the killer would eventually make one fatal mistake, yet the Zodiac seemed strangely aware of every investigative weakness. More letters arrived inside newspaper offices, each one carrying threats, coded messages, and cruel jokes aimed directly toward frustrated police departments. One terrifying message: the Zodiac threatened to attack school buses, sending waves of panic to terrified parents across California communities. Police officers guarded bus routes while children nervously watched strangers outside windows, wondering if the killer could already be somewhere nearby unnoticed. Meanwhile, cryptography experts across the United States desperately attempted decoding Zodiac ciphers that continued confusing even experienced intelligence specialists. One cipher was finally cracked by a school teacher and his wife, revealing disturbing statements about murder, slavery, and twisted pleasure from killing strangers. But investigators quickly realized something horrifying. The decoded message never revealed the killer's actual identity despite promising hidden information inside the cipher. Instead, the Zodiac seemed entertained watching authorities chase meaningless clues, while he controlled the fear spreading across the country from shadows. Television broadcasts transformed the Zodiac into a national obsession, and millions of Americans followed every development, hoping the mystery would finally end. Yet behind closed police department doors, frustration continued growing because investigators still lacked fingerprints, witnesses, and reliable evidence connecting possible suspects conclusively. Then came another terrifying escalation when the Zodiac contacted a popular television program demanding lawyers appear publicly to help him surrender safely. The broadcast stunned viewers nationwide as a caller, claiming to be the Zodiac, spoke nervously about headaches, violence, and losing control mentally. Investigators later doubted the caller was genuine, But the incident revealed how deeply the Zodiac mystery already consumed American public attention everywhere. Detectives began investigating dozens of suspects, including former military men, convicted criminals, and unstable individuals connected loosely through circumstantial evidence and rumors. Among them was Arthur Lee Allen, a former schoolteacher whose behavior, history, and disturbing comments immediately attracted serious police suspicion during investigations. Friends claimed Allen owned unusual weapons, discussed violent fantasies, and wore a Zodiac brand wristwatch, displaying the same chilling cross-circle symbol publicly. Detectives searched his property repeatedly, hoping hidden evidence would finally expose the man believed by many investigators to be the notorious Zodiac Killer. But despite years of suspicion, authorities never discovered enough physical evidence connecting Arthur Lee Allen directly to the confirmed Zodiac murders conclusively. As the 1970s continued, the Zodiac Killer slowly vanished from public view, leaving investigators trapped inside one of America's darkest unsolved mysteries. Even after the murders appeared to stop, strange letters continued appearing occasionally, keeping investigators trapped inside an endless psychological game with the killer. Some messages contained cryptic symbols and bizarre threats, while others referenced unsolved crimes investigators could never fully connect to the Zodiac case conclusively. Detectives feared the killer might still be active somewhere quietly, hiding behind an ordinary life while America slowly forgot the terrifying nightmare unfolding years earlier. But surviving victims never forgot the face behind the attacks, especially Brian Hartnell, who described the hooded figure beside Lake Berryessa in chilling detail. Hartnell remembered the killer speaking calmly before the stabbing, almost emotionless, as if violence had become completely routine inside his fractured mind already. Investigators analyzed every surviving witness statement repeatedly, searching desperately for patterns capable of exposing the Zodiac's true identity before more evidence disappeared forever. Across California evidence rooms, fingerprints, letters, and blood samples slowly aged, while forensic technology remained too primitive to unlock hidden answers yet. Meanwhile, amateur investigators flooded police departments with theories, suspect names, and bizarre claims that complicated the already chaotic investigation even further. Some believed the Zodiac was a genius criminal mastermind, while others argued he was simply exploiting police mistakes and media attention strategically. The killer understood something terrifying about modern fear. The more mysterious he became, the more powerful his reputation grew across American culture. Newspapers printed every new Zodiac letter immediately because public fascination generated enormous attention, unknowingly giving the killer exactly what he desperately wanted most. With every headline, the Zodiac transformed himself from murderer into dark legend, hiding behind mystery while terrifying millions who never even saw him directly. Years passed without arrests, but detectives continued revisiting old evidence, hoping advancing technology could finally reveal clues overlooked during the original investigations decades earlier. Then investigators uncovered partial DNA samples from stamps and envelopes mailed by the Zodiac, creating new hope that modern science might solve everything. Laboratories compared genetic evidence against major suspects, including Arthur Lee Allen, yet the results repeatedly failed to deliver definitive answers investigators desperately needed. Some experts question whether the DNA even belonged to the Zodiac himself, suggesting another person could have handled the letters before mailing them. That possibility shattered confidence across the investigation because the case suddenly became even more uncertain than detectives already feared for decades previously. Meanwhile, retired investigators publicly admitted haunting frustration over missed opportunities, especially the night officers unknowingly allowed the suspected killer to walk away. The realization tormented many detectives for years because they understood history might have changed completely if one radio description had not contained mistakes. Yet despite countless investigations, interviews, and forensic advances, the Zodiac Killer remained hidden, his real identity buried somewhere beneath decades of unanswered questions. As decades passed, the Zodiac case evolved beyond ordinary true crime, becoming a haunting symbol of how evil can disappear without explanation forever. New generations discovered the murders through documentaries, books, and online investigations, each one attempting to solve the mystery that defeated experienced detectives previously. Internet forums exploded with theories connecting the Zodiac to military codes, political extremism, and dozens of unsolved murders scattered across different American states. Some investigators believe the confirmed Zodiac victims represented only a fraction of the killer's actual crimes. hidden beneath unrelated cold cases nationwide. Others warned that public obsession sometimes distorted reality, turning speculation into false certainty while innocent individuals became targets of dangerous accusations online. Yet one disturbing fact remained impossible to ignore. The Zodiac repeatedly demonstrated detailed knowledge only the real murderer should have possessed privately. His letters referenced crime scene details before newspapers released information publicly.
Say investigators were dealing with someone dangerously close to the actual investigations.
That realization fueled terrifying theories suggesting the Zodiac could have worked within law enforcement, military intelligence, or another trusted professional environment secretly. Although no evidence confirmed those theories conclusively, the possibility deepened public paranoia surrounding one of America's most infamous unsolved criminal cases ever recorded. In 2007, renewed forensic testing reopened parts of the investigation as detectives searched modern databases hoping hidden DNA matches finally existed somewhere. Investigators carefully preserved original letters beneath controlled laboratory conditions, while experts extracted microscopic biological traces from aging envelopes and stamps patiently. But each breakthrough created new complications because degraded evidence, contamination risks, and incomplete records continued blocking investigators from reaching definitive conclusions successfully. Meanwhile, surviving family members carry decades of unresolved grief. Knowing the person responsible for unimaginable pain may still never face justice publicly. For them, the Zodiac was never a myth or cultural mystery. He was the reason birthdays, holidays, and ordinary moments became permanently haunted forever. Then another shocking development emerged when independent researchers claimed hidden patterns connected multiple Zodiac letters through.
The advanced cryptographic analysis techniques recently developed.
Some codes appeared intentionally unsolvable, designed less for communication and more for manipulation, confusion, and psychological control over investigators and terrified audiences. Experts realized the Zodiac did not simply enjoy killing people. He enjoyed controlling fear itself, while watching authorities struggle helplessly beneath public pressure constantly. That psychological warfare separated him from many serial killers, because the murders were only one part of his terrifying campaign against society entirely. Even today, investigators continue receiving possible Zodiac tips from retired officers, amateur sleuths, and ordinary citizens convinced they uncovered hidden truths independently. But every new lead eventually collapses into uncertainty, leaving the Zodiac case suspended endlessly between evidence, obsession, myth, and terrifying unanswered reality. More than 50 years later, the Zodiac Killer still occupies a terrifying place inside American history where fear, mystery, and failure intersect permanently together. The murders transformed Northern California forever, changing how communities viewed strangers, isolated roads, and the illusion of everyday safety surrounding ordinary life. Detectives who spent entire careers chasing the Zodiac eventually retired, carrying unanswered questions that continued haunting them long after the investigation officially slowed. Some investigators remained, convinced Arthur Lee Allen was responsible, while others warned the real Zodiac may never have appeared among primary suspects publicly. Without definitive forensic proof, the case remained trapped between probability and certainty, preventing authorities from officially closing one of America's darkest investigations ever. Yet the Zodiac achieved something few criminals ever accomplish. He turned himself into an enduring shadow haunting generations who never experienced the original terror. So directly, his symbol became instantly recognizable across books, films, and media culture, representing the terrifying possibility that some monsters simply disappear successfully forever. Behind that cultural fascination lies a darker truth often forgotten. Real victims lost their lives, while families endured decades without justice or closure. For surviving relatives, every anniversary reopened emotional wounds because the person responsible remained hidden somewhere beyond the reach of law enforcement entirely. Meanwhile, unopened evidence boxes still sit inside police storage rooms, containing letters, fingerprints, photographs, and clues investigators continue studying carefully even today. Modern forensic science grows more advanced every year, creating hope that one microscopic mistake could eventually expose the killer's identity permanently at last. But investigators understand time itself became their greatest enemy because witnesses died, memories faded, and original evidence slowly deteriorated across passing decades continuously. Some experts believe the Zodiac likely died years ago, escaping justice completely while investigators remain trapped chasing a ghost through through fragmented historical evidence endlessly. Others argue the killer may have lived quietly among ordinary people afterward, hiding behind routine jobs, family gatherings, and suburban normality without suspicion. That possibility remains deeply disturbing because it suggests one of America's most infamous murderers may have blended seamlessly into society for years unnoticed. The Zodiac never faced trial, never confessed publicly, and never revealed his true identity, despite decades of investigations involving countless detectives and experts nationwide. Instead, he left behind only coded letters, shattered families, and unanswered questions powerful enough to survive across generations long after the murders ended. Even now, somewhere inside forgotten archives or overlooked evidence, the final clue may already exist, waiting silently to expose the terrifying truth completely. Until that moment arrives, the Zodiac Killer remains more than an unsolved criminal. He remains America's most enduring symbol of unresolved darkness and fear. And perhaps the most horrifying possibility of all is this: the man behind the Zodiac mystery may have died believing he defeated everyone forever.